what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome into the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network and live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day, morning, evening, whenever you are listening to us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I'm your co-host, Ryan Dyrud, joined as always by the man, Ryan Skinny T Anderson. What's up, my brother? How we doing?
Man, it's so good to be here with you. It's I love the Rams Skinny. I love doing this twice a week. It's a highlight, and it's this is a lot of fun. I have to say, I was nervous coming into it, but I'm having a great time. And I'm wearing my other Twins hat today because they swept the Blue Jays in a 3-game series, 2 games to zip, and now I just want the World Series. Us sports fans, we can't just have the last win. We got to have the next win too. So I'm thinking they're going to go all the way to the World Series. You heard it here first.
I love it.
How are you doing?
I'm outside the Dodgers. I'll be pulling for the Twins for sure. But no, man, this has been great. Obviously you've been with this network forever, managing it forever. And, we've had you on shows, always talking Rams, and it made sense to make you the true face of our Rams coverage, and you do a great job. And it's fun being able to, obviously, me and you talk like every day, but being able to be on the mic twice a week, hopefully maybe even more as we even roll out our more coverage. So it's been a lot of fun. I will say I was going to save our Prize Picks promo for later, but since you brought up the Twins, I have a fun Prize Picks going on, and I'll tell everyone how Prize Picks works. It's super simple, but I have DJ Moore. They do on Tuesdays. They do called Taco Tuesday, where they give certain player props like a discount. So DJ Moore was projected like 50 yards, and it's halved of that at 26.5. So I paired DJ Moore with Sonny Gray, 4.5 strikeouts. I did over that, and he got 6 last night. Your Twins, Sonny Gray. So I'm halfway there if DJ Moore can just get 27 yards receiving tonight. So Prize Picks, it's illegal in California. Ton of fun. Head there, prizepicks.com, or download the app. Use our promo code Rams LAFB, all one word. That's Rams LAFB. They're going to match your deposit up to $100. Super fun to play. You got to add 2 to 6 players, kind of build out a prop sheet, over unders, and you can win some real money. So head to prizepicks.com or Prize Picks in the App Store or Google Play Store. Rams LAFB is your promo code. Telling the guys at the LA Football Network sent you. But yeah, Sonny Gray, get me off on the right foot. So well done.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for everybody here. Yeah, good times all around.
Well, there you go. So speaking of good times, Rams are heading back home to SoFi to take on the defending NFC champion Eagles. Should be a fun one at the stadium. Always a good tailgate. You will be there doing our tailgate takeover. Before we jump into the preview here, why don't you just tell the great Ramley what this tailgate takeover is all about we're doing?
We've got our other hosts. So we've got Paula B and Brittany Bites. They're our hosts of that show. I do the producing angle and behind the camera. But we head out there and we just have a good time playing games with Rams fans, getting their predictions and just kind of inspiring the good times out there, and just trying to bring our wonderful network to the fans. It's a big thing for us is to be the network for LA, and that's our whole focus. So this is just a way for you guys to connect with us and us to connect with you on a real human, interaction. We don't get enough of that, certainly not from all the rest of the beat writers, but I'll be out there. So if you see us, say what's up. Don't be shy. We'll get you on the show.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite concepts that we're doing here, and unfortunately I won't be there this time. We'll be there in the future for sure, and we'll do some college games as well. But yeah, just kind of want to be with the fans and the community. So if you're at SoFi this Sunday, find Ryan. You can, if you hit him up on Twitter, RL Anderson LAFB, he will respond just because he's a great dude. And also Brittany_bets and at Bala Parantes, I believe is her handle. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, hit them up. We'll see. They're a lot more popular than you and I, so I don't know if they'll respond. But anyway, go find all of them hanging out, cruising around the pink lot, all the tailgates down there at SoFi. Should be a blast. You guys are doing a great job, and we'll have a little video. If you're there, you'll be on the LAFB network socials and all of our YouTube channels when that video drops. So be on the lookout for that. Can't wait. But let's get into this game. I mean, this is going to be, I think, looking at this, before the season started, Skinny, as a week 5 matchup. And, we went through the schedule back in June and kind of did our predictions. And for everyone watching on YouTube, the site, you'll see my daughter in the background. So sorry for the distractions, but, sick kid at home, that's what you got to deal with. But, look, this was a game definitely I think we both kind of had circled as most likely a loss. Even with how I was a little more optimistic on this Rams team, these are the defending NFC champions. They were returning basically everyone. They had a phenomenal draft, getting some bulldozers in the middle out of Georgia there in the draft that just everyone allowed them to take basically. How do you feel coming into this now? 4 weeks in, 2-2, this Rams team looking a lot better than many expected. Eagles team is undefeated, but they haven't necessarily played a tough schedule either. So just your thoughts before we dive in deep about what this matchup could look like.
Last year, the Eagles just looked like they were on a path to the Super Bowl all year long. They had some hiccups and some stumbles along the way, but everything just looked like it was clicking. This year, it doesn't look that way as much. Jalen Hurts has thrown 3 interceptions. They've played some close games against some not great competition, as you kind of referenced earlier. They took it to overtime with the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell, the next Brock Purdy, I guess. I don't know. We'll see if he's.
I like that comparison. I like that.
We'll see if he's the real deal or not. But I'm feeling a lot better about this. Looking at this matchup on paper, this is probably the best offense that the Eagles have faced so far this year. If you look back at their competition that they faced, I mentioned the Commanders, they played Tampa Bay, the Vikings, and the Patriots, and they've allowed some points in each one of those games. I think the lowest was 11 against Tampa Bay in that win, but they let 20 points out from Mac Jones and the Patriots. It's they're not that offense isn't exactly humming along so far, but this defense is allowing some points to be scored, and it's really been done by their opposing quarterbacks. The Eagles team is a stout run defense, just 63 yards on the ground per game. So
what you're saying is, knowing McVay, we're probably not going to see 30 plus carries in this one.
Well, that's one of my keys to this game is that he doesn't get shy with that running game. And
don't deviate, baby.
We've hammered this point every week. You gotta stick with it. You gotta keep riding those horses. And we'll get into it in a little bit. But that's kind of I'm feeling a lot better about this matchup as the Rams are the best offense that the Eagles have seen so far this year.
Yes, and I think that's the great point. And this defense is great. I don't want to take anything away from the Eagles defense and that front. I mean, we've talked about the Niners having a really good front, which they do. We've talked about the Cowboys having a really good front, which they do. I mean, the Eagles might be better than both those fronts, or at least pretty equal to. I mean, when you look at those front four and even some of the backers they have. So that's going to be tough sledding. But yeah, this Rams offense, I think, is the best they're going to face. I mean, statistically speaking, they are. And then just talent-wise, and when you couple in the fact that the potential of Cooper Kupp coming back, he practiced yesterday and it looked good. We saw the videos of him doing his little steps, his little river dance on the cones, looking great out there, looking fresh. And, the proposition of having him, Puka Nacua, and Tutu Atwell, which is still crazy coming out of my mouth, Skinny T, that it's like we're sitting here saying the combination of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Tutu Atwell might be one of the best 3-headed passing attacks in all of football. Just says what a tremendous job this coaching staff has done. Obviously, we know how good Cooper Kupp is, but the two kind of unknowns coming in, and you just pair those three together, and it's like, I mean, they might be the top three when they're all, I mean, we haven't seen them play together, but we'll see. So just, yeah, on the surface level, what you said, I think the excitement of this offense going against that defense it's going to be fireworks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Cooper Kupp back in this offense, it should work out. And I'm optimistic that it's going to really land in there, especially with how, the scouts are looking at Puka Nacua not as Cooper Kupp light, but as Robert Woods. And we saw what those two could do together on the field, just creating space and improving the run game and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, The big injury that is, still kind of lingering out there from last week was Matthew Stafford. And you mentioned that the front seven of the Eagles team, they might be down Fletcher Cox. He is on the injury report, did not practice yesterday. We'll see about today. But they've got another guy in the interior. His name's Jalen Carter. You referenced Georgia. He was their draft pick out of Georgia. He has 2 fewer pressures this season per PFF than Aaron Donald. And what's incredible is he's played 30 fewer snaps than Aaron Donald has so far this year. So with this kind of reshuffled line and, a slightly hobbled maybe Matthew Stafford, that's one of my keys for this game is stopping the pressure coming up the middle.
Yeah, which is, easier said than done. And this offensive line has been tasked with, some tough matchups early on in the season. Obviously, the aforementioned Niners in week 2, and then even last week the Colts. And overall, they've really rose the occasion, I think, and played well. And me is excited about this offensive line matchup. They've risen the occasion. But this is a Super Bowl team in the Eagles, and they just added the fact that they were able to get Jalen Carter, like the league just allowed them to get Jalen Carter, is unbelievable. Being the Super Bowl runner-up, and you get arguably the best defensive player in the draft, many people were saying. And you just read the stats of what he's done. I mean, he's a one-man wrecking crew. I mean, I never comp anyone to Aaron Donald, but certainly has a skill set of similar prowess to that of Aaron Donald, about the ability to get pressure from the interior and then also just be an absolute mountain to move in the run game, which is why they're, probably averaging 63 yards per game, as you mentioned. So it's going to be a tall order for this offensive line. And let me ask you this, looking like Alaric Jackson might miss this game again, at least I think as of this recording on Thursday, hasn't practiced yet. We'll see later today if he's out there. But if they run with the same 5 again, with Noteboom as your left tackle and Dotson as your right guard, how confident are you that they can at least keep Stafford somewhat upright, who's with that hip contusion? Because the last thing you want as a quarterback is a hip contusion when you have to step into throws, is a bearing down defensive tackle coming through the middle that doesn't allow you to make that step in, or makes it very painful for you to do. So just how confident are you in this front 5 if it is Noteboom at left, Dotson at right guard moving forward?
Noteboom wasn't impressive at left tackle last week, I wouldn't say. Looking at PFF again, he allowed 4 pressures and I think 1 sack. And that's not ideal. And Alaric Jackson was just doing a better job at that spot. So, this is the second string. So my confidence level is not super high, especially just with what Jalen Carter has been able to do so far against other offensive lines. The Bucks have a fantastic center and guard combination there, and he was able to get some production up the middle and get some pressure on Baker Mayfield in that game. So my confidence level isn't where it should be, but I think that what Kyren Williams brings in pass protection. I mean, if he's not running the ball, he's going to be out there a lot, trying to get some chip help. And the last thing we want to see is Stafford running around and trying to make plays with his legs when he's got that cannon still, So, yeah, what's your confidence level in terms of the offensive line?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't care how good your offensive line looks. I mean, you're never that confident going against this strong of a defensive front, I think. We see every week, I mean, the Cowboys always have a really strong offensive line, and them going against this Eagles defensive front is tough sledding. And we've seen it in other groups too. So, I'm never fully confident when you see that kind of talent you're going up against. But where I'm hoping happens is that McVay calls a game that alleviates some of that and takes the pressure off his offensive line. And obviously, I've overemphasized, hey, let's run the ball 25, 30 times a game, but also in short passing game. We talked last time, Skinny, about going to this Colts game. We talked about how even with the passing game and the success, there is a lot of times where the plays are very long intermediate to longer routes that take longer to develop. And that's why we've seen some of the pressure from Stafford. And so, especially going against this front, they got to have play designs that are getting the ball out of Stafford's hand quick. And whether that's quick out routes, whether that's jet sweeps, whether that's dig routes, whatever that is, stop and goes. I mean, they can't, if they're going to have success, in my opinion, you can't be having these 8 to 15 to 20 yard crossing routes that take a long time to develop, because that's just going to let that defensive line eat on a already kind of battered up offensive line. So with an injured Stafford, you just want to get the ball out of his hands quick, play it very conservative. And then if Cooper comes back with the likes of these other guys, you just kind of play that conservative game for 2-3 quarters. And eventually they're going to cheat down so much on that you're going to get one to pop. So that's what I want to see from McVay, is just playing a little more conservative, keeping everything in front of him and just short intermediate stuff. And then eventually we'll have that one thing pop off.
Yeah, and I mentioned the Eagles' run defense. Well, the liability of this has been their coverage. The defensive backs have not been fantastic. They've allowed a lot of yards to be thrown against them. That's their area of liability. The one interesting thing about the Eagles, and it's also similar to the Cincinnati Bengals, is they both play a lot of man defense, man coverage, and that is not something that we saw with the Colts. They're pretty much entirely a zone offense, and that's where Puka Nacua has been most comfortable and where he's gotten most of his targets and touches is in zone coverage. So I'm interested to see if the Eagles can hold up with guys like Tutu Atwell, guys like Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. That's not an easy task for them, and if you're in man coverage against Cooper Kupp and he just puts on one of those, just nice footwork, nice route running, and leaves them in the dust. That's where, we can see some deeper pass plays actually get successful yardage and pick up explosive plays. That I think that's where they have to attack and mitigate what they're seeing up front. With a complementary running game.
Always, baby. We might as well just be called the Rams running game podcast or something like that. Or 13. We'll be 13 personnel. That'll be, instead of 11 personnel with Jordan Rodriguez, we'll be 13 personnel and just run the rock. All right. Well, of course, on radio, we're running up against the clock here soon. So let's do this. Let's give our top 2 matchups we're looking forward to seeing in this game, whether it's player versus player, position versus position, coach versus coach, whatever it may be. So I'll start with you. What's one matchup in this one you're really looking forward to?
A.J. Brown against Cobie Durant. A.J. Brown is yet again having a fantastic year. He's one of the bright spots on this offense. And he's a dude. And the missed tackles from the Rams defense, you can't do that with A.J. Brown out there. So if Cobie Durant can win that, 50% of the time, that's a win for the game.
Okay, last week it was 60% of the time it works every time. I guess this week it's 50% of the time it works every time. For me, I got to go, and I know he doesn't necessarily line up over the center, but they'll definitely have battles in this one, and that's Jason Kelce against Aaron Donald. Jason Kelce, not only one of the best centers in the game, but one of the best personalities in the game, and Aaron Donald, the best defensive lineman in all of football still in this year. And so just watching them go to battle, you have other great offensive linemen on that offensive front for the Eagles. So he's going to see double and triple teams, obviously, all game long. But how Eric Henderson and the coaching staff kind of moves him around. We talked last week against the Colts, and they had that kind of stunt play where, Donald really clogs up the middle, forced Anthony Richardson to the outside where Ernest Jones was kind of playing that QB spy role and was just right there for the play. And we'll see how much they do disguises like that, with Jalen Hurts, who's a very mobile, active quarterback, if they're able to flush him out of the pocket, but then have a backer there waiting for him. So Aaron Donald versus Kelce is going to be fireworks, as it always is.
You kind of stole mine, but I was going to say whoever it is that the Eagles' backup guard is, because Cam Jurgens is actually on the he's going to miss a few weeks, so he's definitely going to miss this game, and he's their starting he's their starting guard. So whoever that poor soul is that's going to have to square up against Aaron Donald is going to have a long day. But the Eagles' offensive line is really no joke when they're all put together. So I'll just go with another pass rusher. I think between their two tackles, left tackle and right tackle, the Eagles have probably maybe the best tackles in the game, and you got Kelsey in the middle. So I want to see what the Rams edge defenders are going to do, and how well they'll be able to set the edge, and they've struggled with that all season, and the Rams have been able to mitigate it because they do have such a disruptive force. And, we saw how much Aaron Donald moved all over the place last week, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of that. So that'll be mine. Just another pass rusher. Who's the other guy? And Byron Young he's been good. Better than expected, which is a line that we said over and over again with this Rams team, especially these rookies and the young guys. They're better than we're expected.
That's their team T-shirt this year. Better than expected, I think. We could also do the matchup, the NFL refs against Lane Johnson if he gets called offside or gets a false start call anytime this game after his quick starts of just reading the ball. But no, that's definitely a good one. We got to see edge pressure, and there's a question I'll have for you. We'll have to end on radio here in a minute, and for those listening on radio, can jump over to podcast for our final score predictions, and then I want to talk the edge rush a little bit more. But to end it for radio, I'll give my last matchup, and assuming Cooper Kupp plays, which I think it's looking likely based on those videos, seeing him move, he looks pretty good. Cooper Kupp against Darius Slay. How much will the Eagles play man? As you alluded to, they do play a lot more man. How much will they decide to play zone because of how dominant Puka Nacua has been, and obviously how much respect they probably have for Cooper Kupp? So if it is man, you'd like to think it's probably Darius Slay. James Bradberry is a very capable corner as well. But Slay versus Kupp was always a fun one. I'm taking Kupp in that every day of the week, but should be a good matchup to watch for. So with that, on radio, that's all the time we got. Head over to LAFBnetwork.com or just search the Rams Skinny on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast and catch the rest of the episode there. So on radio, everyone have a blessed weekend. All right. But with that being said, thanks everyone on podcast for hanging out and staying with us. Before we give our score predictions, I did, and this is way changing gears. Well, okay, let's do this. Let's do score predictions. Then we'll end with this one topic so we don't get off base here. So we got our two key matchups there. So who are you taking in this one? What is it? 1:05 kickoff time here at SoFi. You like the Rams, you like the Eagles? What score you got?
Well, the Eagles are getting a lot of respect. They're 4.5 road favorites. But I'm going to lean into a really good offense, taking the top off of the Eagles secondary. I think that Tutu's going to have a big day. I think that they're going to get some explosive plays from him. They're not going to be able to cover these receivers. So I'm leaning toward a higher scoring game with a final score of 30-28.
Nice 2-pointer. Rams winning?
Rams winning.
Yeah. Rams winning. Okay. I feel the same way. And this team just continues to surprise me. And we posed the question, like, who's the better 2-2 LA team right now, the Rams or the Chargers? And when you just look at talent discrepancy, the Chargers obviously have a lot more, but I think this Rams just, as we keep saying, better than expected. And no disrespect to the Eagles, and they'll have a lot of Eagles fans probably out here in LA, but I just don't think they've played anyone to the caliber of this offense, as you keep alluding to. And this Rams defense has just continued to kind of stack games and improve in certain areas. And I know last week they gave up that 20-point lead, but they're able to finish when it mattered most and get the stop when it mattered most at the end of the game. So I like the Rams in this one as well. And I think they were able to neutralize Jalen Hurts a little bit. And, we saw what they did against the Seahawks. That's the blueprint, right? How they were able to shut down DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. If they can do the same against Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and kind of keep Jalen Hurts somewhat neutralized, and I think that they're in for a good game. And I just think this offense, as long as McVay calls a safer game plan in order to keep Stafford upright, I think they'll be okay. So I'll go. These scores are always, fun to throw out there. We've actually been pretty close on quite a few of them, surprisingly. So we somewhat know what we're talking about, I guess. So, but I'll go Rams 27, Eagles 23. Get a nice 4-point win over there. Obviously, you said 4.5 dogs at home but they flip it. But if you take the money line or if you take the spread, they'll cover both. So Rams 27, Eagles 23. Did I say 23 or 24?
Well, you had 4 points, so it was
23.
Yeah, 23.
27-23 Rams win. I may have said 27-24 at first, but 27-23 Rams win. Okay, so to wrap up the show here, I do want to ask you one thing. Obviously, the big ad fans have been asking the Rams to make is adding edge. You know, you brought it up in one of your matchups, is who's going to step up in this game. Byron Young has shown great promise as a young rookie, but, you know, Michael Hoyt plays his butt off, but probably just isn't quite it at the NFL level. And there's now a big name on the market with Randy Gregory getting released by the Broncos after just a year and 4 games into his contract. Got banged up last year, which has kind of been his MO. Unfortunately, it's just the injury bug. Has all the talent in the world. Is a great, huge specimen. Has great speed off the edge. A bunch of different pass roofs. But even at his time in Dallas, kind of got nipped in with injuries and had that again in Denver last year. And then this year, the statement was from the Broncos that they wanted to turn to their youth, as they have 3 really good young edge guys in Baron Browning, Nick Bonito, and Jonathan Cooper out of Ohio State this year. So that was what they said. There's rumors that he was kind of negative in the locker room after not getting as much playing time or whatever. Like, we're not going to go into that. We don't cover the Broncos, but he's out there. Is this something, Skinny, where you think the Rams should pursue? And like, the Broncos are paying a lot of his contract still because he had a lot of guaranteed money still. So they probably could get him for pretty cheap.
I think absolutely they should.
Yeah.
You know, depending on how the money falls out, I think they absolutely should. I don't think they will. They've left all sorts of edge defenders as free agents, not even rumors of sniffing at. You know, I was pounding the table for Melvin Ingram to you know, just a 1-year rental guy, just, you know, make it happen, you know. But the Rams are being stubborn, and they're not. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they'll pull the trigger on it. What do you think? What should they? Will they?
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, it's only been 24 hours since he was released, but I feel like usually, well, I can't even say usually because it's veterans. Someone like a Gregory, he'll use his agent to like really test the market, I think. So it might take a little while, but yeah, I agree. They seem to be content kind of with what they have, and you know, it would take a game like this weekend. If they get zero pressure on Jalen Hurts, if Byron Young, Michael Hoyt, the rotation can't do anything against these tackles, and Jalen Hurts is able to just have his will, they can't set the edge, they're able to have the run game, then maybe if he's still out there, which I think he will be, then maybe they would pursue it. But if they go out and have a decent game and, you know, it's still not great, but like, you know, they put some pressure here and there, Young gets a sack, I think they'll probably just hold pat. And obviously a lot of it comes down to money, but I don't like to pretend like I know contracts, but, you know, we have a decent idea of covering these teams long enough. Like I said, the Broncos are covering a lot of his contracts still over the next kind of year and a half. And so I wouldn't be shocked if he went to a team for $2 to $3 million. You know, he's making 16 from Denver. So, and, you know, he's going to get that. I think he signed like an $82 million deal, like 40 of that guaranteed or something like that. I can't remember the exact contract, but a good amount's getting paid to him still. So he's going to go where he wants to go. And I don't think money's going to have as much of a factor. So I think the Rams can afford him if they want him. But to me, it's going to take them having an abysmal pass rush game against the Eagles to kind of make that move.
You know, one of the things we didn't really talk about was just how mobile Jalen Hurts is and what a threat he can be. And we saw it last week with Anthony Richardson just picking up first downs when he needed to with his legs. And, you know, so that edge might be exposed even more so this week than it was last week, because Jalen Hurts is just a more experienced and a more poised quarterback with a better offensive line and all that. So, you know, that exposure might just, you know, like you say, inspire the Rams to sign a guy, maybe Gregory. But then you got to think about, you know, how much they've invested, how much time and just coaching that they've invested into their young guys, and to just kind of bring somebody in from the outside. You know, is he a bad locker room guy? Is he just a bad locker room guy in Denver and he just wanted to get out of there? You know, those are all kind of questions that maybe they just don't want to, you know, expose their team to bad vibes, because they've been running on good vibes for 4 weeks now and doing a heck of a job with it. So maybe that's their thinking is, we're gonna take what we can get from 2023 season, and they've always talked about they're building toward 2024, and maybe they'll just keep it that way and take this ride as far as they can go.
Yeah, it's a great point, and obviously it's been stated by them too that their eyes are on the coaching staff and everyone's about the season, but you can read between the lines about the upper management that they're really viewing 2024 in terms of having all this cap space and really going all in again then. So maybe they don't want to deter that by doing anything big this year or drastic. Two last points I'll say about it is purely on the football field. And again, I don't know if this was scheme, if this was coaching, but Gregory was not good in Denver, even the time he was there. He only, I think, 3.5 sacks total his entire tenure with the Broncos, which again wasn't very long because he got injured last year and missed a lot of the season. But even in that time was not a dominant force. So, that can change. Scenery can change everything. But let's not act like this is Von Miller all of a sudden available, who's going to get double-digit sacks no matter where he's at. Not saying Gregory can't get back to that level. He had some great seasons in Dallas, but at this point in his career, he's more of a big name than necessarily a big-time player. Now, again, that can change. So let's just not forget about that. I'm not saying you are, but just as fans, like, we hear the name, but the production hasn't been there over the last 18 months. In terms of personnel and personality, it's such an interesting point because I think most teams, you get that, like, that can be a total season killer if the wrong personality joins your team after you've built something up. And we see it in movies all the time, right? Like, like we went through camp together. Like, this is our team. Like, we don't need an outside force. But that's real life too. I mean, you can't tell me guys that way when someone comes in to kind of join their family that wasn't going through it all in the off season. But all that being said, I think the Rams are maybe one of one, maybe one of three. Maybe you could include the Chiefs in there. As an organization, and I said one of three, one of two, organization in the NFL that can kind of buck that. They've proved they can bring guys in at any time, and there's really no difficulties in culture. We saw it last year with OBJ when everyone was like, which was kind of a false narrative anyway, but everyone was like, oh, OBJ, wherever he goes, he doesn't get along with he's a me guy, not this. He goes to LA, and they couldn't talk more glowing about him being a total team guy, buying into the culture. He's at McVay's wedding, like all this stuff. So if there's any organization that can buck that trend, it absolutely is the Rams. And so I think a person like Randy Gregory would probably be fine with this team. But for me, it's more about the production. And is it worth the maturation of these young guys to bring in a guy that's had 3.5 sacks over the last 18 months? Or do they think they can get back to that 11, 12 sack seasons that he had in Dallas because of the size, speed, and skill, and if he's fully healthy? So we'll see. We'll see how Sunday goes.
I was trying to remember the person. I listened to the This Is Football podcast with Kevin Clark, new ESPN podcast, and he had Mike Tannenbaum on, and he asked him what was one of the biggest mistakes he ever made as a GM, and he said he went out and made a player the highest paid player of the position, and it like he said it affected everybody else on the roster. Why are you bringing this outsider into our place and paying him so much money? That wouldn't necessarily happen with Gregory, but that was just an example that popped in my head that just an example of, you're bringing that guy in, like you're saying, the movie, he didn't go through the ride with us. So yeah, but I mean, I wanted the Rams to draft edge rusher with their 34th pick or whatever it was, 36th pick. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to sign a veteran this offseason, and they haven't done any of it. So I would still, my perspective is, get a guy in there and see what he can do, and he's just going to lend some experience to the room, and and like you're saying, like LA is a soft landing place for all those kinds of guys that you were mentioning. And McVay, one of the things I love about him as a coach is it is so apparent about how much he cares about his players.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I respect the most about him. So, and that's one of the reasons that this franchise is great and why, OBJ is, wasn't a problem in our locker room,
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I still doubt it will happen. I guess that's on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we'll see how Sunday goes. But with that, let's wrap up this edition of the Ram Skinny. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Again, if you're going to be at the game on Sunday, hit up Ryan, RL Anderson, LAFB on Twitter. He will be there with Brittany Betts and Paula B doing the tailgate takeover. A lot of drinks going to be happening, right? You're bringing a lot of little booze out there, passing out. Games to be played, trivia, all that fun stuff, and you'll make it onto the LAFB channels. So for Ryan Anderson, I'm Ryan Dare. Thanks all for hanging out with us. Go Rams. We'll talk to you next week after hopefully a victory Sunday. Thanks all. Be well. Talk soon.